That's it.
Welcome, everybody, to Monday Night Live, right here on ITR Clips. That's in association, of course, with Inside the Ropes. I am Alex McCarthy, barely bronzed from my sabbatical on holiday, but bronzed I am compared to usual Irish complexion. But we have a much better complexion, brother. SB3, what's going on, man?
I was like, Alex is darker than me this week. Oh man, we changed it wrong. Look at him with that nice shine up. He got that shine up.
I got white bits, brother. It's a thing.
Well, guess who's back? Back again. We're back, y'all. It's a
Return
Monday.
of the Mac. Here it is.
Return of the Mac. Yes,
Come
we are
on.
here. So much has happened in the last couple of weeks. We missed. We saw more CM Punk drama, brawl out, fallout, the Elite returning. Colt Cabana showed up on a Wednesday night. Over in WWE land, they've totally made me look like Negro Damas and changed Damage Control into Nexus. With Triple H's awful booking of that stable. Yes, more on that later. And we've missed a whole bunch of injuries. Man, when I looked at the list of people injured in WWE, I was like, man, am I looking at AEW's roster from 6 months ago? Like, it seems like the injury bug has been going between those two promotions. But I'm very excited after 2 weeks to be here with you, Alex, and talk about it all here.
Exactly, brother. Apologies, of course, for the 2-week break. I was on holiday with my family, but now we're back. There's a big week heading up to Full Gear. And as SP3 says, there is quite a lot for us to jump into on tonight's show. Speaking of injuries, Logan Paul is the latest to join that WWE list. We're going to talk a little bit about what he achieved in Saudi Arabia with Roman Reigns. Tyrus, the NWA champion. Oh my word. We've got some things to say about that as well. And Braun Strowman's failure to make friends rears its ugly head once again. On top of that, though, SB3, of course, is going to give you our newly illustrious match ratings. We've got a couple of those to dive into. Although I was away, I did manage to watch Danielson Guevara.
Yes.
That's going to be on the docket. And I think New Days and Uso is also in line to get some ratings. Before we move forward with that, I just want to tell everybody in the live chat, feel free to pump your questions in there. At the end of the show, the last 15 minutes, we're always going to reserve it for answering fan questions. You can wait for that time or you can get them in early. If you want to have something especially read on the show, you know what to do. You got a super chat, right? You can do it in the chat, or you can go to itrtips.com. Take your pick your poison, whatever you like, you can do it. Let's jump into that a little bit, what SP3 and I alluded to a minute ago. Full Gear Week. It is Full Gear Week. Tomorrow, SP3, do you know who I'm meant to be talking to?
Who?
It is the big bad TK. Finally getting Tony Khan one-on-one. I only got the email about half an hour ago that it's fully confirmed. So hopefully tomorrow I will be doing that and you'll be able to see the results on Inside the Ropes. So
I can't wait for Alex's interview with Tony Khan, and then he could come on here next week and be like, you know what? This Tony Khan interview was the worst experience of my life. And especially all you AEW freakazoids.
You pencil neck geeks. Yeah. No, I'd already basically told AEW, like I was pushing, because I'd heard some things about the UK shows, right? So I was like, look, why don't we just cooperate on this? All right. I'll tell you what I know, you tell me what you know, Leo. Let's go. So not confirmed yet, but I'm hoping Tony will say something on the record tomorrow. I've obviously already stated that I'm going to be asking such things. So he knows what to prep. But I mean, there's lots of stuff. I mean, I think it's only a 20-minute chat, potentially. You know, we know at this point he's not going to tell me what happened in the fight backstage. So, like, you know, set your expectations is what I would say to people. Come on now. Like, you know, I'll do my best, as I always do. But still, man, Full Gear, I am looking forward to it. I've said this many times, AEW's kind of pay-per-view cards When you just look down them on paper, they always look so tantalizing for me. And I love the kind of 4 pay-per-view shows a year system. It's something that WWE, to be fair, look like they're, well, maybe not 4 a year, but Triple H is trying to streamline, right? That much we do know. It's not going to be 1 a month like it was. So I think that's what we've learned.
Well, we know pretty much the most important shows of the year are 2-night WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Well, more importantly, 2 Saudi shows because they make the most money. That stat that Brandon Thurston put up about the 4 years of Saudi pay-per-views are made more money than 38 WrestleManias. Like,
correct.
Those are the most important thing. Then 2-night WrestleMania, then SummerSlam because that's their summer big stadium show. Then you got the Rumble because they could put that in the stadium on occasion. They've been doing that more consistent as of late. And now they're going back to Survivor Series. Survivor Series at the bottom of all of that, and because we don't know where they are at with Money in the Bank, because Money in the Bank would be ahead of Survivor Series at this point.
Yeah, I think you did that chronologically. I think you got that spot on, to be honest, in that order. That's how WWE perceives it, and as do we, the fans. But looking at Full Gear this Saturday, I think is it Saturday or Sunday? Sunday?
It's Saturday. Saturday.
See, I always get confused because technically it is Sunday for me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, like, when I'm presenting, I normally say what time it is in the UK, and then I start to doubt myself, like, what day is it? But anyway, there you go, Saturday night. I'm going to come out and say it, and SP3 might have contrarian opinions. He might not. You have to crown MJF. You have to crown him now. And I would argue, although I wouldn't use the same word, you have to, perhaps you should crown Jamie Hayter as well.
I agree with half of that. I think it's definitely MJF's time. This man is like, if basketball terms, he's like Steph Curry with the 3-pointer with promos. He's been on fire ever since his return.
Red hot.
Just his back and forth with Moxley, back and forth with Regal. He did a promo on the #1 sports podcast in the world on Wednesday. That was great. You know, I've been so on the firm's involvement in all of this, but we got Stokely Hathaway's promo on Wednesday, which gave me the best one-liner in AEW history. So I'm okay with it after that. After that, I was like, it finally felt like Wednesday. They finally was like, oh yeah, we got a pay-per-view to really push here. And it seems like that's been happening more of late. I don't feel like this is the same type of like high-notch quality that we were getting from the run from Double or Nothing, or even I would even say like, no, I would say Double or Nothing when they first got the fans, a full crowd back in front. Double or Nothing, All Out, Full Gear, Revolution. That's the best 4 pay-per-view stretch that they ever had. And we've seen kind of a dip since then due to injuries, you know, backstage stuff, people leaving, stuff like that. So I don't think it's of the same quality as I went to Full Gear last year in Minnesota. And that's one of the greatest cards I've ever seen. I was listening to somebody that had never seen the show, and going back, I was just stunned by all the bangers that is on that card. You had Hangman Omega, Darby MJF, you had Undisputed Elite versus Jurassic Express, Punk versus Kingston. Like, the list goes on, and I'm missing some. FTR, Lucha Bros. Like, there is some that you would think of that you could say in the live chat that you remember from that Full Gear card from top to bottom. That this card is not as much like that, but I do feel there feels like a stronger build up to this card than All Out. I think because they were trying to shuffle so much going into All Out, I think because of the brawl out at All Out, they were able to focus more and kind of give us, you know, a better built matches than what I felt when I went to All Out live.
Yeah, I think it's been more concentrated for sure. You know, you can see that, as you've just said, in the build. I think AEW corrected their ways very well with the firm. I think early on they were kind of like, you know, I understood the surprise element and getting the chip to MJF, and you could have done it without that, to be honest. His return would have been as big a pop anyway if you just played his music and had him do it. But it was, I guess, at that point, what MJF would have done, right? Something scrupulous and underhanded, and, you know, bought his way into the, you know, getting the ticket or whatever. But things have changed, right? Since his comeback, and I don't know whether AEW anticipated this or not. you could argue they didn't if they had the firm storyline up their sleeve. Sorry. But he's like mega babyface now. But the crowd want to cheer MJF in any incarnation. And I like it that he hasn't drifted too far from why they're cheering, right? So often, WWE's been guilty of that down the years. If someone's a babyface, then all of a sudden then it's like, oh, I'm greener than grass and I've got to be the nicest guy in the world. And you're like, that's not what brought you to the dance. But with MJF, they've managed to stay kind of true to that. And I think very wisely, they noted that didn't need the firm, didn't need that as part of the ensemble, and it's strong enough without.
I do think it is a ploy, though.
It could be.
I definitely think the right move would be Stokely helping MJF in some way because of his promo on Wednesday about my best friend. I thought I would be at the top when my best friend wanted to become, the world champion. And I've been saying ever since the Regal and MJF promo, the finish, we're gonna see MJF win with Regal's brass knuckles. He's not going to use the Dynamite Diamond Ring. I think he's going to use Regal's brass knuckles. I think that promo
he's going to do
set the stage for the finish.
Like he's going to do something because I feel like if it was just there's two schools of thought, right? If he was to just beat Moxley, it's huge on paper, right? Like in terms of his credibility as a wrestler and a champion and being a marketable star. But I don't think that's ever really been the goal. And I also think, MJF staying true to his kind of like heel boots, there's going to be some kind of shenanigans. And just as, everyone's starting to cheer for him, it's going to be like, not exactly the same, but kind of like the Rock in 98, Deadly Games.
I dead was thinking of that too. I was like, This really is, it feels like it. It feels like we are going to the coronation and everybody's thinking, oh, he's going to be this hot baby face, but he's going to turn it on the dime. And he's very much needed as that number one heel because they haven't positioned anyone else to kind of fill that void if he's not going to be the number one heel. You got plenty of guys who could fill the void as top baby face. You got Moxley, you got Bryan, who hasn't even come across MJF yet, and that would be a nice little transition from MJF's first, win over Moxley to him feuding with another member of the Blackpool Combat Club. So you got that in play there. You got, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks coming back, the kind of the guys that built this company. So you got plenty of babyface options. He's more needed in that number one heel position. One thing I do want to note, Safet, love you. I think your comment is incorrect. I think with AEW and WWE, the pay-per-views are always good. It's not going to, it might not be, I wouldn't even think that it's going to suck. I don't think going into a major WWE event that is going to suck, and I don't go into an AEW event thinking it's going to suck. Because what sucks about both companies is sometimes the booking sucks, not the performers. The wrestling is always good, and that's what they primarily focus on these major events.
Yeah, indeed. And again, we will look at the card momentarily, like a brief run through, because we do have other stuff to talk about. But yeah, I do agree with everything you're saying. He is more needed on the heel side, but what's hot is hot, right? Like, I know I always do feel like you should play your hot hand, right? Because again, you can make that argument, and then you do get yourself your own problems of like, okay, well, who's he going to work against if he's like the biggest baby face, right? It depends what kind of babyface he is, though. As I said, if MJF was cookie cutter, it wouldn't wash. He'd very quickly fizzle. Again, I'm not making the Rock Steve Austin comparisons, but that's why they worked. And the same thing with the Rock. Like, I remember being so angry when he turned at Survivor Series 98, so angry because he was just getting super hot, and it just felt like, like this is the moment. And then you felt so kind of like, I know like the Swerve Bro thing is so overplayed, but that's maybe one of the best ones they ever did, where I legitimately did not see it coming. And I was young, but even now, I don't think I would have telegraphed it. If it was, if that's playing out in real time now, I don't think I would have been like, they've got their star, here he is. I wouldn't have thought they would have done that. So again, I think the smart thing is MJF will pull the rug from under everybody and be like, fuck you, like I did it my way, blah, 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 I am who I am. But the argument going back to with Jamie Hayter, I do feel like, okay, she's not red hot like MJF, but in the grand scheme of the women's division, is there anyone hotter? Like, you could, in terms, she's got that like bubbling underbelly where the fans are going, we like, Jamie's who we're here for, right?
Yeah.
There are many ways you could play this out, because I don't think Tony's had a real run, but at the same time, like I said, you got to go with your hot hand, and I don't know if Tony's got that feud waiting for her to be. Whereas with Jamie, there's a lot more to explore with Britt, and you'll back me up. I said months ago that Jamie should have been the one to dethrone Jade. I thought that might be the way to go. But if we're here in the title picture, and you've got many more ways to explore after that, you kind of have to concede. Like Jamie is the more interesting option than Tony, perhaps.
Yeah, every week on Trio, I do a podcast with my boy Jimmy Macram. He doesn't watch anything of wrestling except for AEW Dynamite. He doesn't even watch Rampage, and all he's seen of Toni Storm is her on AEW, and he thinks that she comes off as bland, like she doesn't have a personality.
Well, you
know
what Kenny McIntosh thinks about Toni Storm.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jamie Hayter, yeah, she's the more interesting option. I think that it would be probably kind of the best move for her career to put the title on her, but it kind of negates what Toni Storm has been able to accomplish as the interim AEW Women's World Champion, regardless of how you feel about her, as a personality. She's delivered in the ring. Her matches with, Serena Deeb was really good. All the Fatal 4-Ways she's had has been really good. Her and Cheetah was excellent. So she's had really good matches. She has been probably the most consistently booked women's champion since Britt Baker's early run, not even the later run of Britt Baker. The latter half of her run, she was sporadically used on AEW Dynamite. Toni Storm went 8 straight weeks having a match on AEW Dynamite. You know how that's an accomplishment for AEW? What a run for her. So I will say that I think it would be smart to keep it on Toni. Just do the interim, champion versus the real champion, Tony Thunder Rosa. You could do it on a big episode of Dynamite, do it on Battle of the Belts in January, either or. And then I would say the best move to do is to have the winner of that in a triple threat against Britt and Jamie, and then have the heel turn or babyface turn, whatever is going to happen there, happen in that matchup. I think that would be the best move. Like Jamie Hayter wins the championship by pitting Britt Baker, or Britt Baker regains the title by screwing over Jamie. I think that's the best move and the best catalyst, because then you could take the feud into, the spring and the summer with the one-on-one feud, because you've already put them in 4-ways, in triple threats. But I will give AEW credit, because I haven't seen a lot of people mention this, and I've been mentioning it since Dynamite. They deserve credit for getting their crap together as far as the women's division, because going into Full Gear, we have 3 women's feuds, and it's not just 3 matches, because we've had that before on AEW pay-per-views. These are 3 women's feuds with over characters in there, regardless of how you feel about Toni Storm. Jamie Hayter is over. Saraya, has that new car smell of being in AEW, and Britt Baker is the top star, and their promo exchange on AEW Dynamite was really damn good. But Britt Baker was like Nas Ether against Jay-Z Saraya out there, because Saraya don't know how to talk to the AEW fans. Stop talking about your WWE success. They don't want to hear that. They're gonna boo you. They boo you.
Well, that's why I just pulled the face when you said that.
I know. But then
I felt it got stronger. Like the close of the promo was really good, but the first part for Saraya, I was really like, oof, I don't think this is going well. Like I
liked her first part when she said she was like cleared. It was when Britt said her piece, and then she came back like, you haven't really done anything. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, but it's not even just what she was saying. Her delivery, like you said as well, was just a bit. I was like, oh. But then, like again, she came back really strong and talking about everything she'd overcome and all of this, and then I got back invested. But there was a minute there where I was like, oh, a lot of, because I keep going to call her Paige. Saraya has obviously had a fair amount of criticism for her promos in AEW already. So but you're right that you got those 3 matchups like
Nyla and Jade. I feel like is very unique, because it's a heel versus heel matchup, but it's the first time in a while that I remember a heel versus heel feud where the company is basically just letting you choose who you think is the babyface. Because to me, Nyla's the babyface because she's hilarious. Her doing the Jade crossover on Rampage. and posing like Jade and doing the Jaded. I love Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose has shined in this feud, but you can understand people who view Jade as the victim here because she's had her title stolen, had her car stolen. So I think that's very unique. And I think all three feuds are very unique. And this is the first time it feels like they actually spent time to have three well-built feuds going into a pay-per-view.
Yeah, I agree. And you kind of sold me on the Jamie Hayter thing. The one match I would like to see after the spicy comments is Tony Storm and Thunder Rosa, actually. I would like to see that for the real belt now. Shoot or not, whatever. I thought Tony Storm handled that really well after she won the title. And then, of course, there's all those directions you can go with Jamie and Britt that you don't have to rush through. So yeah, hopefully if they have the grander plan in play, I still do believe though, and this is not just a English bias, but I do think Jamie Hayter is the main player they've got there, which is really, and because I felt that for, going back 6 months or so, it's, when the crowd starts getting behind someone, you're like, yeah, I knew it. I fucking knew it. Which hardly ever happens for me. But there you go. Just to round off the card, we've also got Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal against Sting and Darby Allin. Bring me in from the cold. We got a fatal four-way for the ROH World Championship, which again on paper looks ridiculous. Jericho Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and Sammy Guevara. By the way, SP3, while we're here, did you see Sammy Guevara trying to talk to the Dubai people?
Well, where's the lie? Sammy was great. That was a great line. Now the timing was excellent.
Dubai, do you want to see me, Bugs? Can you get a pin drop in there?
It was kind of similar to the Bobby Fish promo he quoted.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Christ. Still, I know Sammy's got a lot of detractors, but I like Sammy the performer. That's going to be a good match. Like we talked about the three women, and then of course we got the Eliminator final as well. That'll be that title shot of winner is coming. And the Acclaimed, which I just fucking love and have done for a long time now, and Swerve and Our Glory are going to go at it for the tag belts once again. That can't not be good. So yeah, I mean, again, very much. Oh, and we got Luchasaurus versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry as well, and it's still Cage.
Yeah, knowing all those matches sound really good, but knowing AEW, they're going to add more. AEW. We're going to probably get Elite versus.
There's 9 at the moment. It's like, well, they normally kind of go 13, 14, all included.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get the Elite versus Lucha Bros because I mean versus Death Triangle for the Trios Championships because I think that's the reason why they're defending the Trios titles on Dynamite. But if y'all don't know AR Fox, I can't wait for people to be blown their mind when AR Fox is on Dynamite this week. AR Fox and Top Flight versus Death Triangle. That should be awesome. But I think it's going to lead to the Elite coming back. That's going to be a matchup. I also think they're going to give us a sirloin beef 3-way of Joe, Wardlow, and Powerhouse Hobbs.
Have to.
I can't wait. I can't wait. And that's another one where I was like, people were like telling me, Samoa Joe turned heel. I was like, did he? Because to me, he had every right to hit Wardlow. Wardlow been wilding out.
Hey, and a leopard never changes his spots, brother. That was just Samoa Joe doing his thing. I was watching that whole segment, right? And again, long-time fan of Samoa Joe. I'm just watching. I'm thinking he's going to lay that motherfucker out. Like he's just standing there. He's watching him, and I'm thinking, to the untrained eye, I'm like, why is Joe here? Like he's done nothing all segment, right? He's just kind of standing there waiting for what I'm like. He's no one's bitch boy. What is this? And then, there it is, played out right in front of you. There's going to be a lot of meat slapping meat on that show, without a doubt. Let's jump into some other stuff because we don't have that much longer, and we've spent a lot of time on Full Gear. We did say here that we would talk a little bit about Logan Paul. He has knee issues coming out of the Saudi Arabia match, SP3. One thing I want to talk about him. Presumably, if his injuries are as they were stipulated, MCL, ACL, and all of that, Mania be off the cards for him, right? There's like a good 9 months if that is the case. Has he changed the dynamic of what a part-time or celebrity wrestler is? Is there a point where you would consider, I'm not saying take it off Roman, but you put a major title on Logan Paul, you position him in in a major way? Because if this was like the litmus test, he passed, did he not?
I just want to say, Logan Paul is the greatest celebrity wrestler of all time.
There it is.
He's the greatest celebrity wrestler of all time. He gave us the greatest third match ever of someone's career against Roman Reigns. That was excellent. That was one of the best WWE matches of the year. And I would say between SummerSlam and Crown Jewel, Roman Reigns improved his argument to be the wrestler of the year because he gave us 3 amazing main events that were all different. The over-the-top sports entertainment shenanigans we got at SummerSlam and the Last Man Standing match, the kind of heel champion coming into the challengers home country matchup against Drew at Clash at the Castle. Hey, that's how WWE presented it.
That's true. That's true. You know, I'm just, you know, Drew wouldn't appreciate it, but you know, okay.
I know. And then this one with Logan Paul, where Roman really gave a lot. Like Logan Paul dominated about 75% of this matchup. Roman got a bunch of offense early on, showing his cockiness, talking to the camera. Like, no YouTuber can come get me. All that stuff. That was great. But Logan Paul pulling out the buckshot lariat, looking much better than CM Punk, although he did hurt himself like CM Punk did on the buckshot lariat. But the 5-star vlog splash, one of the best social media spots in WWE history. It's great. It's just great. Like all of that was just tremendous stuff. Logan Paul deserves a lot of credit where he started kind of modestly in that tag team match at WrestleMania 38, but he's continued to kind of raise the bar for himself with each one of these matches. And yeah, if Logan Paul decided, hey, you know what, WWE, I'm going to work 10, 15 matches this year, I would say put the title on him. I acknowledge Logan Paul as the future Tribal Chief.
Oh my God. Oh God. He's the head of the table now. All right.
No, he is the table. This man goes into every industry and he takes over, ladies and gentlemen. I'm on the Logan Paul bandwagon. It might have been because I saw his brother pretty much dominate a fight against one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time because he's younger and faster and he's a natural boxer. But anyway, that's besides the point. I am on the Logan Paul bandwagon.
Listen, the argument I made at the start of this, I'm with it, right? Like he is showing the aptitude, the attitude as well. If he was all in next year, you could put a good program together where he was steadily present, and why not? Why not? Like as far as like young talent goes, when WWE they're not blessed with like a load of people in their 20s or whatever, and all the mainstream appeal he's got.
He's the most famous person in WWE.
Yeah, it's true, right? And if it was 6 months ago, okay, well, before Mania, so more than that, but I would have gone, oh, it's fucking ludicrous to even suggest such a thing. But he's proven a lot in that space of time. He really has. And I think he's grown into it. And with more time and working with the right people, could get even better. So, again, very impressed. But unfortunately, it looks like he's going to be on the shelf for a while. So, stay updated. We will let you know if and when the diagnosis drops. Speaking of champions, though, we go from Logan Paul in his 20s to NWA. Okay, there is a lot to get into here. So this might be the last. No, because we need to rank match and stuff yet. So bear with us, okay? Nick Aldis is on his way out of NWA. Now, for most of us, he pretty much has been the NWA for the past few years. They've kind of put him some nice pieces around him from time to time, never for an extended period. But he has been the cornerstone, and a good one at that, for NWA. But he's going to move on to pastures new. He's made it clear, having read a lot of his interviews, he felt like a lot of the recent stuff that Billy Corgan had commissioned didn't pass the Harley Race test. And by that, he means would have Harley Race approved of some of the angles or the characters that they're commissioning these days. He had worked very hard to get Harley back involved in the fold before he passed. And he just felt like a lot of that work had been diminished. Very hard to argue with that. I mean, a lot of good things have come through NWA in their kind of renaissance over the past sort of 5 years. Thunder Rosa being one of them. Ricky Starks as well. There are a lot of good examples of that promotion helping. Right now, they have 49-year-old Tyrus, formerly known as the Funkasaurus, as the NWA champion of the world. Now, that puts him in an esteemed company with the likes of Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair and many, many others, Harley Race included. Tyrus. There's a lot to dissect there, but let me get into this before I let SB3 loose. Today, I read on Twitter Billy Corgan saying, people want to see Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. He feels that's just as good as Tyrus versus Trevor Murdoch. Okay, all respect to everyone involved here, okay? No disrespect. That is like, and I said this to Phil Lindsay on Twitter, that is like Gordon Ramsay saying, look at this steak I created. That's like me saying, what about my beans on toast? That is like CM Punk cutting a promo and me going, well, that's almost as good as this Louis Dangle tweet, right? There are levels to this. It is insulting, right? Insulting that I get it. Promoter's going to promote SB3. I get it, right? But like, he actually hasn't helped, right? by doing that. In fact, I don't think there's one person alive that as well. Oh man, maybe I should check out what those two are up to. Nope. It's awful. Corgan seems to be on a real, I don't want to call it a downward spiral because what do I know? But man, he's got bad takes coming out of his eyes lately. And losing Aldis, his real centerpiece, I honestly don't know where NWA go from here.
You know what? Billy Corgan deserves a lot of credit. He deserves a lot of credit. He's, a member of the Smashing Pumpkins, very successful.
Let me just say, Louis catches strays, but like his tweets, come on, I like Louis, but his tweets deserve it, all right? He knows this. He knows this.
I mean, yeah. Mostly everyone agrees with Alex there. But Billy Corgan, he deserved credit. He was a person in a rock band, made a bunch of money there. He was very successful there. And he's come into wrestling. He did some work with ECW. He was a part of the management in TNA. He's now, the president of NWA. But man, oh man, has this dude failed at being a money mark in this business? Because the whole point of being a money mark is to, get into the business, circulate your way through, and create a niche. It basically feels like Tony Khan stole the blueprint that Billy Corgan created and failed at, and he succeeded with it. That's basically what happened. We hear the term money mark all the time for Tony Khan, but not a lot of people talk about Billy Corgan because he's in the NWA. And the fact that we're talking about NWA, and this is the reason why, because they decided to put the championship on the worst professional wrestler that I think has ever held the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. In front of me right now, Alex, I have a list of the NWA World Heavyweight Champions in history. Orville Brown was the first ever champion back in 1948, and he lost it to Lou Thez, who went on to held the title for 2,300 days. Ooh. Harley Race, Buddy Rogers, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Jack Briscoe, Terry Funk.
Oh, what a list this is, by the way.
Tyrus, ladies and gentlemen, Tyrus. What, are you kidding me? Are we serious? Oh, this is gross. This is gross. The fact that Billy Corgan has publicly went out and said there are no female free agents that quote unquote wrestle the NWA style And wrestling the NWA style is represented by the freaking Funkasaurus.
Oh.
Somebody call your mama and tell them that the NWA has taken the mantle as the worst wrestling promotion in the world.
Gross really got me there. Really got me. Even Rob Conway's shoulders over Tyrus. Shoulders.
Ron Garvin, head and shoulders ahead of him. And as far as like Nick Aldis, I mean, I feel for the brother because, like you said at the beginning when we were talking about this, Nick Aldis kind of defined NWA and their renaissance that happened just a couple of short years ago. You know, people like to say
he had it in like 2017, I think, is when it kind of. So that's what I'm saying. Like, he really did put it on his back for a good 5 years and got it to the most reputable point it had been in a long time.
Yeah, like even people like to bring up, NWA Power because that's when a lot of people got back into NWA. But like you said, his work goes back to 2017. His feud with Tim Storm really put attention on the championship. That's when NWA created the whole 10 pounds of gold series. And that feud led into the Cody and Nick Aldis, them pretty much stealing the show, probably having the most emotionally driven matchup at the All-In pay-per-view that is so important to professional wrestling. The landscape, the history, that event and that matchup kind of defines that event in a lot of ways for a lot of people out there. And Aldis was a part of that. Then he beats Cody back for the championship and holds the title for, you want to know this reign? This is up there. The people talk about Roman's reign right now. This man held the NWA World Heavyweight Championship from October 21st, 2018 to August 29th, 2021. 1,043 days. Like that's representing the company 100%. He was the face of the company when NWA Power came on. And like you said, Thunder Rosa being introduced to so many different fans. Ricky Starks, that's when I first was introduced to Ricky Starks and got to see this man. And I was like, oh, this man needs to be somewhere where he can get more eyes on him. Eddie Kingston received a renaissance there. Homicide, Eli Drake, now LA Knight was there. James Storm, they had a whole bunch of people, and it was so unique because they had that 80s feel to it. And I think a combination of different stuff. The pandemic, of course, affected, them being able to present their show the way they wanted to. Free agency with WWE and AEW signing up a bunch of people. A lot of the names that I just named are in AEW at the moment, and they didn't handle a bunch of those situations very well, whether it be Thunder Rosa or Ricky Starks. You don't hear a lot of good things about their falling out with NWA. So it just has the stigma of people just being like, I don't even want to be involved in this. I don't want to watch this. I went through the card on True Hill Heat this week, and people was just mad at me for it. Like, they don't even want to hear what's going on in NWA after hearing all this mess. And then coming out of the pay-per-view, I was about to watch this pay-per-view. It was like 7:58 p.m. Eastern time. And I was like, I'm going to try NWA Hard Times. And then I was like, a minute later, I was like, I'm going to turn on this YouTube video. And then 3 hours later, to find out Tyrus won the championship, I was like, I made the right decision.
You're the right man. AJ Styles did indeed win the belt, Nick Jackson, in 2005. I remember being pumped when Christian Cage won it in 2007.
Yes.
Again, just getting his due. That was really the start of it. So again, it's all, you just said it all really. Like there's not much more to expand on NWA, and they did have something. But man, presumably now all this will hit one of the main shows. Obviously, he's never made a pit stop in WWE. He was Magnus for a long time in TNA. But you have to lose faith really with what the vision of NWA is. And you know what? In principle, I guess I understand what Corgan was trying to say in the Tyrus Murdoch thing, but he's just wagered it on the wrong people. There's no. We could get into the politics and Jesus.
He
But
hasn't handled any of these situations the
well,
right
no, but
way.
he's just not a good wrestler either. Like, but again, like they haven't looked at kind of who can take NWA into the future or anything like that. It's just
And I felt like this was just a move to get people to talk, because they knew that people did not like Tyrus, do not find him entertaining, and I feel like Billy Corgan thinks that this is good heat and good attention, when it's really not. Nothing that's happened in the past week to get people talking about NWA is good for them in the future.
Yeah. I mean, and you forget as well all of the goodwill that Empower brought. Like that was a real buzz in the industry. It's only like a year ago, right?
Yeah.
Like only like a year ago that everyone was excited about that. And I actually thought they did a good show as well.
Me too.
And then and then you hear Corgan and Murdoch as well, for whatever reason, saying, "Oh, you said it earlier that there's not the women out there to put on another," which is fucking laughable. Wrestling the NWA style and all this stuff, and I just thought, you've undone all your good work. But anyway, we could go around in circles about NWA and how they've tripped themselves up. Speaking of tripping themselves up, since we last spoke, Braun Strowman had just got on a good run. He had just got on a good run, right? He had just kind of his return to the company. Like, again, I'd said this from the jump. I wasn't really excited about it, right? I was a bit like, cool. Like, there was a time where I liked what Strowman did in the ring. I think as you get to know more about how Strowman thinks outside of the ring, the less enamoring he is. But whatever. Him and Omos was an interesting pairing. They then go out and have a match that belied a lot of expectations, I think. Omos' best match, for sure. And then Strowman just can't help but alienate himself from he's kind of since said, right? I'll let SB3 get into the particulars. He's kind of since alluded to that he was, joking. People can't take a joke. He weren't joking, SB3.
No, he wasn't joking. This is the same man that made fun of independent wrestlers for having GoFundMes during a pandemic. This man ain't joking. This is just another series. His social media game is Donald Trump levels. Like, he's at Donald Trump levels. I don't listen to him anymore.
He keeps saying I like to I like to work the marks or whatever he says, and he likes to stoke the flames. But then as soon as he does, he's like, "What's everyone mad at me for?" You think, mate, pick your lane. What's the matter with you?
Pick one struggle. Pick one struggle, bro. Just pick one, please.
Jesus. But again, what do you think for Strowman? Like, because it's a weird thing, right? Like, I suppose he kind of gets cheers at WWE's events, and that's what they really care about. He delivered in the match, right? It's just they're saying though that people backstage don't really like the man. There has been reports. Like, is it really counterintuitive? I don't know.
I mean, from what the reports say, it says that, he's been all right. He's been good backstage, but people don't like what quote unquote social media Braun. So if you have a persona based on your social media personality that is different from your everyday personality at your job, that might be an issue, especially when you're supposed to be a damn baby face. You're supposed to sell merch. You're supposed to be cheered. And whether people realize it or not, a lot of people like to say, "Oh, the internet wrestling community, what goes on wrestling Twitter doesn't translate to the fans at the crowd." And I agree with that in one sense, and I don't agree with that in another sense. I agree with that in one sense when it comes to someone like Ronda Rousey. I see every day on wrestling Twitter, she gets insulted, say she has no personality, she can't cut a promo, but every time she comes out on a SmackDown, she gets one of the biggest reactions from that crowd. So sometimes it doesn't matter. Another point was when AEW, I think Max Caster did a joke about something that was going on social media about the talent meeting, and he got no reaction from the crowd. Crickets. That happens. But then you have the other end of the spectrum. 3 years ago, Seth Rollins was one of the biggest baby faces in the world until he had Twitter fingers, started getting back and forth with Will Ospreay and saying, "Oh, I'm protecting. Oh, John Moxley's taking food off my family," saying a whole bunch of stupid stuff. It affected him on TV because fans stopped cheering him as much. His booking didn't help the matter at all, and he had to become a heel just 6 months later. So people need to realize that sometimes you need to calm down on the Twitter fingers, especially if you're presented as a babyface.
Yeah, that's true. CM has hit the point here with Braun Strowman, I guess. The choo-choo cheers. The casuals do cheer. I find Braun pretty unlikable. Just in essence, like like I said, I really kind of dug like him and Roman, the original feud and all of that stuff, and that's when I kind of became a fan of his. It is amusing. I think it says a lot that somebody would go out of their way to do control your narrative and go all in on that, and then the second somebody offers to bring you back, albeit I'm sure it's an amazing money, he goes, oh well, fuck my narrative, I'll go do whatever you want me to do again. Like again, like let me be very
literally days before he re-signed, he was saying that Control Your Narrative is going to be a bigger promotion than AEW.
I mean, look, again, I'm not really going to judge him for taking money or anything. Like, let me be very clear. I will take any job that pays my family the best money. Fact, right? I'd go to Saudi Arabia and get the money. Let me be very clear. I don't give a shit. Like, if it gives my family a better life, I don't care. But I'm not going to be all high and mighty beforehand and be like, I'm going to control my narrative. Nobody's ever going to shackle me again. Oh, well, that's a bit of money. I'll be there. Like, he's kind of, he's a bit of an oxymoron. But anyway, let's get to some star ratings before we're going to open it up for the final 5-10 minutes. Guys, give us your questions in the live chat. You've all been very vocal and active today. I like it. Keep it coming. Give us your questions. Anything, really. SB3, what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie ever? Probably Goodfellas.
Oh, that's a very good pick. It's a very safe pick, but it's a good pick.
I love that movie. Love that. So many quotables.
You know what I was thinking today? It came on when I was in the kitchen, right? And I think I said this to you before. R. Kelly, Honey Love came on. I think that might be my favorite song ever, right? Just because, again, it's aged terribly, right? Because
I was like, yeah, that's what I made the face like. Whoa, you know what I
Listen, I like the man, right?
I watched a YouTube channel that reviewed all of the different parts of Trapped in the Closet, and I was man, this is a mind trip seeing it now. He was telling him on himself.
Yeah, oh yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like the song came on, and I was like, I've loved this song for 20 years, but I can't outwardly love this song anymore. Like I wouldn't just bump Honey Love in my car, right? Driving along, and I was like, "Is that R. Kelly?" Like, oh shit, man. I can't be proud of that. But yeah, I was thinking to myself, if I was to pick a favorite song, again, those questions are always so hard, right? Favorite song, favorite movie. That's a pretty good criteria. Like, I've never got tired of listening to it. But I feel the same about, although I don't have to listen to it all year long. All I Want for Christmas from Mariah Carey. That's the greatest Christmas song.
That's a
right?
jam. Like, yeah, that's a bop.
You can't fuck with it. It's like before it even happened, right? As soon as it comes out, it's like that's the Christmas song. Yeah, that is it. It's got every element. Every element you can wish for.
I've worked in too many retail places that play that ad nauseum. Once November 1st comes, that I define that song with just, oh, it's Christmas season. Oh, we gotta get ready. I gotta start buying gifts and all of that. So
it's a bop. It's a bop. Let's just do the one match, man. Let's just do Danielson Guevara from last week. Do you want to run the people over the criteria once more? And as you do, let us know what score we arrive at for Danielson Guevara. 2 out of 3 falls, by the way, just to let people know. The rematch, go.
I've now developed a system, ladies and gentlemen, where I'm going to give a star rating for each one of my categories, add it all up, divide it by the 6 categories, and that's going to get the score. So the criteria is you're going to go with the crowd, the audience participation, the in-ring work, build up, storytelling in the matchup, the finish, the crescendo, how it all ended, and the platform, the stage. So we're talking about Bryan Danielson versus Sammy Guevara from the November 9th edition of AEW Dynamite. Best 2 out of 3 falls. Rematch from 2 weeks ago. Where you want to start?
let's start. I guess the appropriate place to start here is the in-ring stuff, right? Like the bell to bell, the action, because these two are incredibly high performers. They're bound to score incredibly high, no?
Yeah, I gave that 5. That's a 5-star. That was the best part of the matchup, man. It's just their two styles. And I thought that match 2 weeks ago was good, but I felt like it didn't hit that third gear, that third, fourth gear that really make a match very memorable. But I think they hit that here. Like when they started doing the reversals into the submissions, Sammy busting out the walls of Jericho, and Danielson transitioning that into the label lock and stuff. And then Sammy reversing the stomps to the head into a damn backflip DDT. I was like, yo, this is nuts. This is a nuts match, and it just out of nowhere kind of hit that gear. So yeah, I would give 5 stars to the in-ring work.
And again, like for me, the stage or where it happens, it does matter. But that's not to say that you can't get a 5-star match on like a weekly TV show or whatnot. If the build is right and all of the right, elements kind of come together, it could definitely happen. This was the main event of the show. It's worth mentioning. It is leading into the 4-way on pay-per-view. What did you make of the positioning, the moment in time the match took place, I guess? See, well, I think there's another chapter which hurts a little.
Yeah, you could see them doing like a third matchup, or definitely a matchup for Sammy. This seems like they're setting Sammy kind of to finally get that one win over Bryan, because I thought that's what made this match really good. Is I didn't know who was going to win because Bryan won, and it was just 2 weeks ago. And we know Bryan Danielson is up there with The Rock as one of the most giving professional wrestlers who will put anyone over. This man was putting over Drew Gulak during his final run in WWE. So he will do that. So it was very questionable, but I like them putting it in the main event. It's on Dynamite, which always has a high quality of shows, but of course not a pay-per-view. So you got to take some off of that. So I'll go through 3.5 on the stage.
What about the story?
Storytelling, I would go with a 4 because I think they told a good story where Sammy came closer than the first match against the two, where the first match kind of Bryan went on that run of moves. I think the finish of the first match was Bryan hits a poison Rana, then he hits the Psycho knee, then he hits the stomps to the head, then he gets the triangle choke, and Sammy's out. They did that. They ran that back again, and they did the poison Rana, and then Sammy reversed the Psycho knee into the walls of Jericho. Just that little touch of storytelling, a callback to the former matchup, makes it a high mark for the storytelling. So I gave the storytelling a 4.
Okay. What about the crescendo and the finish?
Finish is another 4 because I felt like it was kind of going back and forth where you didn't know who had the advantage. And I like how Sammy was pretty much surviving the regular label lock. And I like the fact that Bryan had to pull out a variation to finally put him away. It's that little type of stuff. The guy gets over in defeat because the veteran, one of the GOATs in the ring had to pull out something different to put him away. I like that type of finish. So I give that a 4 as well.
So what does that leave us at, man? That's about a 4.25, is it?
We got the build up and the crowd, and this is where you're gonna see like the lowest marks here. I felt like the build up, there wasn't enough time in between the two matches. I would have spread this out a little bit more, maybe have this best 2 out of 3 falls match after the ROH 4-way, because I also thought that's why I thought I didn't know who was gonna win, because I think Sammy should get a win going into this pay-per-view if he's gonna be in this title match. So yeah, the build up I didn't think was that strong, so I give the build up a 2. And then the crowd, I felt like the crowd was good, not amazing. I felt like it was, it was 2 hours into a 2-hour broadcast, and probably longer for them because they have to sit through dark elevation and all that other stuff, 3.5 hours. So the crowd wasn't at the peak, but it was pretty good. So I give it 3.5.
So I think that leaves us at, was it 3.75 or was it a flat 4?
So I'm going to add everything up. So we got 3.5 for the crowd, 3.5 for the stage. That's 7. We got 4 for the finish, 4 for the storytelling. That's 8, 7, 15. The in-ring work was a 5. That's 20. And then the build-up was 22. So divided by 6.
22 divided by 6.
We're at 3.75, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's like 3.67, but we're going to say, come on now. Math. Round it up.
And when it gets that close, I kind of bump it for how I go 4. I would go 4 on this. I would go 4 on this. This is different from the ladder match that we reviewed last time from Halloween Havoc, where I thought the parts that I gave the 5 and the 4s for kind of outweigh the stuff that I was lower on.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the weighting is a discrepancy. We've kind of said, right, like whatever does get the first 5-star match from this show, it better be damn good. We're making it a hard climb to get that full 5. You'd have to get 5 in everything. That's the only way the criteria is met on this show to get the perfect match. So, I hope it happens one day.
Hey, we got Full Gear coming up. We got Survivor Series coming up, back-to-back weeks. So next week we'll do a match from Full Gear. We'll pick out what I guess.
Listen, if Full Gear is really strong, that might just be the show. We might just star rate the matches.
Okay.
See how it goes. Goes. On the home straight here, just a couple of questions in the live chat. If you would like to ask us something, personal, wrestling, whatever, get it in there right now, and we will do it. There is just a couple for me to get to at the moment. I wonder if there's any bias attached to this. Captain Charisma asks, what do you think of Christian Cage? Now, Captain Charisma, you've come to the right place. Because SB3 will tell you, we are big Christian Cage fans over here. I was one of the most vocal when he returned from his retirement and popped up in AEW, and I was all for it. And I've long defended anything Christian Cage does. I think now it's like a really common narrative now that he's one of the most underappreciated kind of workers in the history of the business. But I always, not trying to sound like fucking Captain Hindsight or anything, but I always did just enjoy Christian between the ropes, and I always thought he had great personality come across as well on the microphone and just his facials and everything. I just always really enjoyed Christian. To see him get his due to the world title hunt around the turn of the 2010, around the turn of the decade, so fulfilling. There's nothing better than those title runs, right? When you're, I had it for Dolph Ziggler as well, but it didn't really pan out the way I wanted. But when he gets to the title, though, you're like, it feels so good for the person you want to get the title. And that was awesome with Christian when he first came back as well. Had bangers with Kenny Omega, beat Kenny Omega. Is it the first Rampage he beats him? Yes, I think
the first Rampage, yeah.
Right, great, fucking great. And then he just wasn't on TV for ages, or hadn't wrestled. He was on TV with Jungle Express, but he just weren't wrestling. And I was like, I don't think there's even a problem with him. So that pissed me off a bit. If I'm being ultra critical of Tony, I think I actually tweeted something to that effect as well. He'd only had a handful of matches. And then I started to really enjoy Turtleneck Christian again when he was getting into it with Jungle Boy. It's just a shame that he then got injured.
Yeah. If you know anything about my past, like I said, I got the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, so I always think back at the first heels that I ever really loved their characters and were big fans of them. And I always think back to Edge and Christian and Kurt Angle. That trio was kind of like my first group that I was just like, I didn't care what anybody told me. I was like 12 years old in 2000, and I was like a huge Edge and Christian mark. I used to do 5-second poses when my teacher turned around to the chalkboard and do it in the middle of the class and stuff. I used to have gold medals that I got from the schoolyard, and I used to wear it in class and say I was Olympic gold medalist like Kurt Angle. So those guys are those are the guys that I really enjoyed as heels, and then I enjoyed their work as baby faces. I would say Christian was probably my favorite wrestler when he went to TNA. That was my love for TNA increased when Christian showed up in that company, and him beating Jeff Jarrett at Against All Odds, winning the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. That's one of my favorite babyface title wins in wrestling history. I would say it's in the top 10 for me. So I'm a huge Christian Cage fan.
And bearing in mind, SB3 has seen every wrestling match ever. That's a big statement. Got a couple more flying around here. WWE has just announced Seth is now not only wrestling Finn, but he will now defend his title against Finn. Is there a chance that Finn wins, or does Seth retain? I'd be very surprised if Seth dropped it. At the moment, Judgment Day don't need the United States title. That's my simple thoughts on that. But I wrote a piece for Inside the Ropes magazine this month talking about the mid-card titles, and it's no coincidence that Gunther and Seth Rollins, two quintessential Triple H guys, are manning those titles right now. While Roman is, of course, on and off. Like, he's got that part-time schedule. You need your mid-card talents to be positioned correctly, and you need them to hold up the show. Bang. Seth Rollins, probably arguably the best worker in the company, one of the best in the world. Gunther, one of the most, kind of startling attractions WWE has to offer right now. I think it's so smart to put it on both of those two for different reasons. I saw, Louis Dangoor shout out again today, and WrestleVotes. They've been doing like a series lately, and one of the tweets said something like, because Triple H is actually a big fan of Gunther. Yeah, no fucking shit. He made him the NXT UK champion for like a decade. And he goes, and they said something like Vince McMahon was going to bury him, but Triple H likes him. Like,
I was like, this is all information we knew.
Is that a report? I mean, geez, I very nearly replied going, wow. Triple H likes Gunther. There you go. That's some startling information.
All I will say is that regardless of Roman Reigns' schedule, regardless of how good a job Triple H has done with the Intercontinental title, with the US title, they're both mid-card titles. So that makes Austin Theory's cash-in the worst Money in the Bank cash-in of all time. This man cashed in on a mid-card title. Not only just a mid-card title the man already won. This dude literally every week tells us he's the youngest U.S. champion of all time. A mid-card title that had an open challenge. He could have just accepted and kept his briefcase. Like, what did Triple H think? Like, I feel like I'm going nuts because I don't hear as many people frustrated with some of these booking decisions.
I think with the Austin Theory one, I think people are just glad that he didn't take the world title, right? So they're just kind of like,
he should have cashed in on the world title. If he's gonna lose, he should lose to Roman Reigns. He teased going after the NXT championship. Losing to Braun Breaker would have been better.
Should have done that. You're right. He should have done that. There's a lot of things. I mean, listen, I'm not defending the Austin Theory cash in. Please let me distance myself from that. My thing with the Austin Theory briefcase, right, is obviously that's the Vince McMahon call. There was a trajectory there for him. He was probably going to win it. Let's be honest. He probably was. He probably was going to be the guy that dethrones Roman. Triple H comes in, and it's not like Triple H isn't an Austin Theory fan. He had him in the way and a big part of NXT and all of this stuff. But does he see him as the guy who's going to lead the company and dethrone Roman? Obviously fucking not. There was many options of how he could have done it, but all that told me is that he just thought, I want this off him. I want this out. He obviously saw no good way, although there are tons we just said to a couple that he could have done. But he obviously thought to himself, this is a problem. I can't have it with Austin Theory coming up. Yeah, and they just bombed it. But what are you gonna do?
I didn't think anything would top Baron Corbin cashing in on Jimmy.
I was actually furious with that. Like, again, I'm a well-known Baron Corbin supporter. I know that many aren't, but I am. And I was like, man, if you're gonna do it, like, and again, the way they just had him lose, and it had to be Tessino, who just doesn't fucking lose. In those situations, anyway, it was just carnage. A couple of more here before we wind down here. Alex, have you caught Obama Celeb yet? No, I have not, Matt. I was on holiday to miss the start. I ain't playing catch up. I love that show, but I can't be asked.
I got a question. Did you catch up on Atlanta?
What was the last Atlanta I saw was Amsterdam.
Oh, wow. You haven't seen none of season 4? Man, season 4.
Yeah, is there another season?
They're back in Atlanta. Yeah. They did both season 3 and season 4 this year.
So, well, there you go then. I mean, is the Amsterdam, where they're like eating the
I think you're talking about track. Oh yeah. That's the season finale of season
Okay,
3. When
well, there we go then. All right.
Van goes into her whole
Yeah, she goes
whole
mad, man. She loses, she goes crazy. She's just
beating
letting
people
out
with a brisket.
yeah, man. She's letting out all that mama angst. Yeah, I see that, but I need to watch the other series, which I think is on Disney, so I should do that. To be fair,
Yeah. When I was out in the UK, that's where I was watching it, and I watched it on Hulu.
yeah, I will get around to that. But again, we just got back from holiday, and maybe my missus are kind of recalibrating what shows we're trying to watch right now.
Season 3 was good. It started the anthology episodes, but the best anthology episode is in season 4, where they talk about the making of Goofy movie and why it's about Black Parenthood. It's great. Go out of your way. If you're just gonna watch one episode of season 4 of Atlanta, go out of your way to watch their mockumentary on Goofy movie and how Goofy is a black man. It's one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
I will get to that. Matty has said, always wondered, how did you both meet? How did this friendship partnership first happen? Well, how did you both meet? We have met, by the way, in person many times now. I'm sure many of you are aware of this. SB3 was over in the summer. We met up a couple of times. I've also met up with SB3 in New York. We first met, I want to say SB3 jumped in my DMs and asked me to come on True Hill Heat. And believe it or not, I was actually quite picky about stuff like this at the time. And I hadn't watched True Hill Heat. I'm a day one Patreon supporter now, but at the time I hadn't. And I think it was just the way SB3 approached me. I quite liked him. And then we did the show together, and I liked him even more. I thought, I thought he was a good presenter, and I thought he asked good questions. Obviously, had done his research and stuff, and very knowledgeable overall. And obviously, at this time, I had a radio show and all of this good stuff. So I was kind of in a position to say to SB3, hey man, like, why don't we do some more things? And I had him come on my radio show, and I just SB3 was opening his own doors, but I just thought I really rated what he did, so I wanted to kind of bring him on with me and the certain stuff that I did. And of course, I got the show with Wrestle Talk, and they said to me, who would you like, basically? Well, the real story, they said you have to have Louis, right? And I was like, well, that's cool, because obviously he's Wrestle Talk anyway. Makes sense. We're going to do wrestling news. Makes sense. Get the news from Louis, bring him on the show. I said, cool, but not every day. I want to have some different people on the show. SB3 was my number one pick, along with Steph Chase. I was like, it's very important to not just have two white dudes on the show. We got one of the most talented girls, the most talented probably in the UK, and SB3 as well. And then eventually we got Sat as well, which was amazing when Louis departed. So man, what a great! I still miss that team. What a great team that was. But yeah, that's pretty much my end. I mean, I don't know. SB3 might want to correct me in some places. I don't know.
No, you
I don't know. K Black's going off a bit here. I mean, I listen. He's a handsome man. I would.
I was in his hotel room, but he didn't take advantage of me. So sorry, K Black. I know you're probably behind your keyboard, like, oh yeah, please tell me. But no, unfortunately, that didn't happen. We're both happily in relationships.
That's such a simple. Calm down. Just such a simple message. But yeah, man, I don't know. Did I miss anything?
No, you hit everything on the nail, on the head. Pretty much, yeah. I saw like Alex was one of one of the forces when it came to like wrestling personalities, wrestling media personalities on social media, and I was just like, hey, I'm interviewing people. It was just the beginning of the pandemic. I just got fired from my day-to-day job, and I was like, hey, I'm doing interviews. I want to interview him. I want to interview people a part of wrestling media, and Alex had just a great story, and I'm just getting to know him. I'm just like, man, this guy is pretty much me but white. This is great. So yeah. That's how it happened.
That's it. With the Chappelle Show love, we love the Lakers. We had too much in common, I'm afraid. But yeah, man, it was one of them where, like, as soon as we bounced off each other on a couple of shows, it was like this is too natural to not do, basically. CM Goofy is Black, the Goofy movie.
Yo, that episode made too much sense. Too much sense, because they played the part with the principal telling Goofy, he was like, he's wearing all this clothes and he's gonna go to jail because he's a gangster. I'm like, that's what principals do to black parents. That was great. It was great. So good.
Let me finish with this. DJ Duke says, what's next for Matt Cardona and Chelsea? Well, Chelsea Green looks like she's heading back to WWE if and Fightful, obviously rarely wrong, but I believe it was them who have reported on that. Of course, I mean, it was harsh that she was let go in the first place, right? Made her debut, broken wrist, cheerio. I don't think I'm alone in saying Matt Cardona, there's a lot of mileage in him coming back to WWE. He has reinvented himself tremendously well. You know, he was an NWA champion. Also, great GCW run as well. You know, like kind of almost like anti Zack Ryder and all of the things that brought him to the dance in the first place. He evolved so magnificently well, I thought. Stacked as well. Guy's huge. And I think there's a lot of mileage in that act together. They've shown this. So I'd be really surprised if they didn't give Matt and Chelsea a go together in the company. I really would. And I think Cardona, it's so often when you leave WWE, it's really hard to kind of like, you know, find your way again and make yourself valuable enough that the company come calling. You know, we know a handful of people that have done it, but I really think Cardona, from what he was pigeonholed as, did remarkably well to make himself back. So, man, I would love to see him get a chance under someone different like Triple H.
And I know they're friends, but Matt Cardona's like run on the independent scene as far as like just reinventing himself and getting those eyes back on him, and could totally come into WWE as Matt Cardona now. He doesn't have to be Zack Ryder anymore. And that's something that he said he does when he said if he goes back, he wants to be Matt Cardona. Is very reminiscent of Cody Rhodes, who left the company as Stardust and, you know, busted his butt across the independent scene, Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, AEW, New Japan, to come back to WWE as Cody Rhodes. I think Matt Cardona is very reminiscent of that. And like you said, Chelsea Green got such a bad hand in WWE, just, you know, getting called up and then breaking her wrist and then just pretty much let go. She has so much talent and so much needed, because I'm sick of SmackDown crowding out the same 6 women in different combinations. Like we saw the 6-pack challenge on SmackDown on Friday. I was just like, I've seen this match like in 86 different forms. I've seen every evolution of this Pokemon. I am over this. We need more women wrestlers on SmackDown.
There's a fact for you. There is a fact. And, you know, I would say as well, with Cardona's journey to the independence and maybe back to WWE, that odyssey, you know, not many people know Drew McIntyre's done that. I don't think he's ever mentioned it, to be fair. He may have been fired, fought his way back to WWE. He may have done that.
Yeah, they never talk about that.
No, they would never bring that up.
They never bring it up. But Matt Cardona and GCW is the closest thing we've gotten in 20, 25 years to Jerry Lawler in ECW. Like that vibe that he delivered, that's when GCW became its hottest and it became the biggest independent promotion in the world.
Yeah, the fans were frothing at the mouth, weren't they, with Cardona at that point, you know. And again, like I said, I never really make time for anything outside of AEW, WWE, because I just don't have the time, unless SP3 specifically sends me a Japanese match, says, watch this. But when Cardona was doing his thing in GCW, the buzz was like so strong. I was like, I have to see what he's up to. Right. On that note, we've gone over. Of course we have. That's what we do on our show. We don't have a time limit. We do what we want. But we will wrap it up. I've got to be up at 5 a.m., which is like 6.5 hours away. Very excited about it. It's World Cup week for me. So, you know, man, I mean, things are kicking off this Sunday. Then my work is going to be crazy busy for the next month. I mean, we're looking for 9 p.m. start times on the Mondays going forward. But again, if England play or World Cup interferes, there might be some tinkering. We'll let you know, basically. But alas, there will be shows. Enjoy the World Cup and enjoy a great week of wrestling. We've got Full Gear to talk about next Monday. SB3, where can the fine people find you this week?
You can find me over at the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. I think they just put the link in the live chat. I'll be over there a couple of times this week. We got the AE Ramble show with myself and Jimmy. Like I said earlier, we review AEW Dynamite every week on Thursday, the day after. Then on Friday, we got our AEW Full Gear preview. It'll be myself, Romeo, and Joe Holbert of the Late Night Grin, Russell Purist. He's going to be joining us to preview the show. And then on Sunday, we got the Full Gear roundtable review. I'll also be doing a preview on Historic X Over, and check out patreon.com/True Hill Heat, which more exclusive content from the True Hill Heat game.
I love Joe Hulbert. Let me just state that for the record. Clip this up if you like to show him. I love the guy. I love him. All the best. I'll make sure you check out that True Hill Heat content this week. Make sure you follow SB3 and all of the great work that he does. Again, I'll be speaking to Big TK tomorrow, unless something goes terribly wrong. And you will be able to find that on Inside the Ropes later this week ahead of Full Gear. Until then, I will see you later. I'll give you all of the clips and all of the little nuggets on Twitter, so you'll know where to find it. But we will find you next Monday, 9 p.m. here on ITR Clips Monday Night Live. Good night.